Hello there. How are you doing? Greetings. Sorry I've been so busy lately. I've actually had like the busiest 2 weeks of my life. I couldn't get away. I couldn't get away. It was that bad. I was that busy working. I do technically have 4 jobs, believe it or not. Some people don't believe that. It's like, well, that's fine. You don't believe it? That's perfectly okay. I'd like to talk about math and science, or math and physics, and make a clear distinction. And by the way, I'm not anti-math. I actually excelled in math, even though I hated it in high school and college. And I even enjoyed my super fancy, ultra advanced calculators that you could program in simple algorithms into it. We have all that via computers now. We didn't have the computers for that back then. Well, we did, but we didn't haul them to school like they do now. I'm sounding old, right? Wanted to quote Nikola Tesla on a couple of things regarding mathematicians and actually make a clear distinction between natural order, physics, i.e. episteme, and what actual math represents. By the way, some of the stuff I've been incredibly busy on. I could show you one of them here. I got like 5 more over there. This is a OD green alligator guitar strap, still being edge coated. It actually takes an enormous amount of time to make these. That's all hand dyed on the back. I know you're not interested in that, but I show you that as justification that I actually do have 4 jobs, believe it or not. So I'd like to make a quote from Tesla. I also too posted a news clipping from when Tesla said it. He was asked about today's scientists, what he thought about them, and an extraction from the quotes. Moderately famous, at least from those people that know Nikola Tesla. Let me quote Tesla for you. The scientists from Franklin to Morse were clear thinkers that did not produce erroneous theories. The scientists of today think deeply instead of clearly. One must be able to think clearly. One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quite insane. Today's scientists have substituted means mathematicians, by the way, because today's scientists are not scientists at all. There's a distinction way removed from even Nikola Tesla's times, where it's even more prominent. It was an issue back in his time, but it's a real issue today. Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experimentation, and they wander off through equation after equation, and eventually build a structure which has no relationship to reality. Yeah, there we go. Let's go a little bit further here in an important quote passage from Nikola Tesla's own mouth. My method is very different. I do not rush into constructive work. When I get my idea, I start it right away to build it up in my mind. I change the structure, I make improvements, I experiment. I run the device in my mind. It's absolutely the same to me whether I operate the turbine in thought, in his head, or test it in actuality in my shop. It makes no difference. The results are the same. In this way, when I am gone so far that I can put it into the device, into every possible improvement that I can think of, that I can see no faults anywhere, that I finally construct the final product of my brain. Every time my device works as I conceive it, it should, and my experiment comes out exactly as I plan it. In 20 years, there has been not a single solitary experiment which did not turn out precisely as I thought it would. Why should it not? Engineering, electrical, and mechanical is positive in results. Almost any subject presented can be mathematically treated, and the effects calculated or shortcuts thereof. If it is such as the results cannot be had by simple methods of mathematics, this is all due to experience, all the data on which to draw and from which to build. Why then should one carry out the cruel idea? Meaning the crude idea. I said cruel idea. Sorry about that. He said the crude idea. It is not. This is what happens when you think about 10 things at once. Sorry about that. It is not necessary if it is a waste of energy, money, and time. Now this is just the way I produce the rotating magnetic fields, is referring to his AC generator invention. But he actually had ideas, and he built them in his head, and he actually ran the devices in his head, and he would actually improve them, like, this needs to be changed, that needs to be changed. I'm not one, nor is Nikola Tesla, I'm not comparing myself to Tesla, by the way, against mathematics. But just as Nikola Tesla said, these are, they're building a structure upon which has no connection to reality, and that is absolutely the case. Let's make a distinction between physics and math. These are parameters versus descriptors. Math, of course, does not explain anything, nor do equations. All numbers, of course, are conceptual. They're no different than rational hieroglyphics, which is exactly what math is. Once again, I was good in math in high school and college. I was a lot better than my peers, even though I despised it. These, of course, are conceptual representations only. True physics and true experimentation and true understanding, of course, is about explanations and chains of causation and rational illuminations as to the mechanisms and chains of causations about what is being witnessed. Once again, the Nikola Tesla quote about being able to think clearly and deeply, but these people think deeply and are quite insane. It is the case, and I knew one guy that ended up there as a friend of mine in high school. He's a very brilliant mathematician. They always thought he would be a prodigy because he was so brilliant in math. He could do these long equations in his head. But he ended up in the nut ward. And a lot of the people in insane wards are incredibly intelligent. They'll actually sit there and play chess on an invisible board, and they're actually really playing it in their head. And I was a chess champion in high school, but I mean, some of these people can literally play 5 different people. And there are many video examples of this where people are looking at 5 boards in their head, or even 10. Some of these master chess players will play 20 players at once, and they're looking at all 20 boards at once in their head and playing all these people at once. But these are the same people that stick their finger in a light socket. They can think deeply, and their math is really good, but they don't know how anything works. They can tell you the cost of everything, but they can't tell you the value of anything, which is extremely telling. It's borderline autistic. Not that I'm going after autism in any fashion, but just because you know the math doesn't mean you understand the essence of anything. The issue when you're actually engaging, as I've been doing for many years, debates with other entities and people. I have a college degree, though I have the fallacy of authority. Well, who peer-reviewed your paper on magnetism, and that's a fallacy of authority. They'll put up all these fallacies to roadblock the fact that they have no idea what's going on. I mean, and I've debated PhD professors of mathematics and physics before, and they're one and the same thing in academia, by the way. These are not actual scientists in the Aristotelian Platonic sense, what they are as mathematicians. Well, so, I have a PhD. Where's your peer review on your book that you've written? That's a fallacy. They'll do anything to keep from exposing the fact that they have no idea what's going on. They'll also, too, engage in the fallacy of doxa, opinion. They think their opinion is established fact, and it's not. It's also, too, fundamentally a bandwagon fallacy. Well, everybody believes it. I mean, we've been teaching this stuff for decades now. Well, relativity is still a theory. Not only that, it's far more disproven theory today than it was even in the 80s. You'll not hear anybody talking about that on YouTube or any other place, and that's not my opinion. It's an established fact. The holes in relativity have actually gotten larger rather than smaller over the past decades. I mean, that's an established fact. There's way more holes in it. It doesn't explain anything. Ask any of these people what a field is. My favorite one, everybody should go watch it. There's 1,000 copies of it on YouTube. Type in Richard Feynman, Feynman. Richard Feynman explains magnetism. And he's asked by a simple reporter, it's like, what is magnetism? What is this thing going on between magnets, and how do they work remotely? He sits there, squirms and wiggles in his chair like a frog. Just type in Richard Feynman explains magnetism. It's a 7-minute video. Very telling. He's the guy that all these mathematicians who call themselves scientists look up to as a god. he wiggles and squirms, then he makes an analogy of an old woman slipping on the ice, and he basically ends up saying, well, it's just too complicated for me to explain it to you. You know, it's just, I can't stick it in a framework whereby which is just a fancy way of saying I have no idea. He would have been actually a lot smarter. It's like, well, even though I'm famous and incredibly intelligent and a brilliant mathematician, which of course he was, he doesn't know what a field is. He has no idea what magnetism is. What's the explanation for what's going on between magnets? He has no idea. But he squirms and wiggles in his chair. He's asked very innocently, what's a field? None of these people can tell you what a field is. They never have told you what a field is. This bandwagon fallacy. Well, it's taught in colleges all over the world. That's a bandwagon fallacy, or, you know, the fallacy of authority once again. Well, you know, who are you? Who peer-reviewed your book? Okay. Physike. Let's get to the word physike. Episteme, meaning knowledge of nature. That's what physics is about. To have an episteme, empirical knowledge as to the mechanics of Mother Nature. That's what physics is. It's not math. Physics, by definition, Aristotelian, Platonic, Pythagorean, it's not math. It's about understanding natural order and the way things work, of course. What about math? Mathema. The term means knowledge, the knowledge to learn. Math is not learning. It's the process of information, and the processing of information is literally counting. I have that funny idea in my head, as I said that, of the Sesame Street character, the Count. That's what these scientists are. Remember the Count? He loved to count things. Wow! He didn't care if he understood what the numbers were representative of it. He just loved to count things. It's a childhood flashback to Sesame Street. There's a character called the Count, and he would count things, and he got great joy from counting things. And that's what these so-called physicists remind me of. They're mathematicians that love to, ha ha, 5, 4. It's the language of operation. It's not an explanation of its nature, or its implication, or what its esse is, i.e. essence. These are descriptors. It's no different than a road map. Of course, people don't use road maps anymore. We all whip out our phone and we let Siri direct us here or there, or whatever, you know, how to get to location A or location B. But math is a road map that anybody can follow. You know, a map can show you the way to water, but it's not going to quench your thirst. Leads you to Rome, but it can't give you an experience of the Colosseum or the Italian people or the majesty that... not that I've been to Italy. I could make an analogy about Yalta, which is the most beautiful place I've ever seen in the world. It's in Crimea, i.e. in Ukraine, which of course is currently occupied by Russia. What math is, unfortunately, it's a belief system. It's a religion. And they have their priests, and these priests are PhD professors of physics. But these PhD professors of physics, they literally have no thirst to understand. That's not to say that some out there don't have a deep thirst and burning desire to understand the stuff that they talk about and supposedly teach about. They only care about the math. You know, what sort of peer-reviewed paper can I publish? How can I agree with... there's no such thing as truth by consensus. Nothing true is popular, nothing popular is true. Every branch of so-called science throughout history has always thought they had it right. We got it right this time. And they were always proven wrong. And then another view came along, another religious edict belief system. And that's what these are. These are belief systems based upon math. But accurate math has no bearing upon explanations. Accurate math is a roadmap that other people can follow. And it is really good for that. You know, if you do this, then this will happen. Here's the equation saying that. But it doesn't explain anything, and it doesn't give you the nature of what something is. All the math in the world, and I got a lot of books on field theory, probably other than some like a Harvard University, for example. I got more books on field theory than any other single person in the world, possibly. You're probably somebody that has a few more. But not a one of them, with all their countless equations and all their math, and this is not my opinion, it's a hardcore, undeniable fact. There's not a single book that I have back there, both digital and physical print edition, full of endless equations on field theory, okay? Like Maxwellian field equations. Maxwellian field equations tell you results in joules, watts, volts, amps, so on and so forth, with a given vector over a period of time, but it doesn't tell you what a field is. It doesn't tell you what is the essence of magnetism. There is not a single book on this earth that you can find, because it doesn't exist, that will tell you this is what magnetism is, the essence of magnetism. Not one, except for the one that I wrote. There's not a single one that will tell you what the ancient Greek word kora, meaning what a field is. What's a field? They can't. It sounds like a trick question. I've told everybody for many years what a field is. A field's an ether perturbation modality. Like ice, water, and steam are just different modalities of water. Yeah. That's what a field is. A field is an ether perturbation modality. It's conjugate geometry of the universe, magnetic and dielectric. So-called gravity is non-point source mutual mass acceleration. In other words, electrostatic so-called attraction. Electricity is a hybrid of dielectricity and magnetism. So, grand unified theory, really simple. The conjugate geometry of the entire universe. Force and motion, inertia and acceleration. Simplex pressure mediation. There's not a single book anywhere on this earth on field theory that can sum up all fields simply, tell you what a field is. I just got done doing it in like 15 seconds. Oh, I have a PhD. I've written 5 books on field theory with a lot of math. Yes, you have. And your math is not called into question. Math is descriptors, but it is not explicative. That's a great word everybody should learn. Explicative. Excuse me, you've said much, but you've given no explicative illumination as to the nature of what we're discussing. It's trying to sound fancy using big words. Explicative. Doesn't tell you what's going on. Math is not physics, yet all so-called physicists today have a PhD in physics, both theoretical and practical. Yeah, but you can't tell me what a field is. You can't tell me what magnetism is. You can't tell me the essence of anything. You could weigh something, measure it, observe what it does and doesn't do, but until you can tell me what its essence is, how it works, why it works, chain of causation for why it is, and you've not explained it. Reproducible results through math equations are brilliant. They're great little roadmaps. But a roadmap doesn't gas up your car. A roadmap doesn't get you there. A roadmap doesn't tell you, like, there's this beautiful spot located in California, whatever, for example. And I've been to some beautiful spots in California. It doesn't get you there. It doesn't give you an experience of it. It doesn't tell you the smells. It doesn't give you the wheres, the why-fors, the explanations. It doesn't give you the essence of what it is. This is what true Aristotelian, Platonic, and Pythagorean physics is actually about. Wanting to understand natural order. But these people really don't care. 99.9% of them don't actually care. They care about memorizing the math, reproducible results, which is honorable. Reproducible results is something to be commended, no doubt. But these people, they don't have any genuine burning desire to understand the essence of what something is. I am just the opposite. I don't care about the math. I want to know what it is in itself. Pre-verbalization, pre-enumeration, pre-counting, pre-algorithmic, pre-formula. Maxwellian field equations have been lauded for many decades. They're reproducible, they're accurate, but it doesn't tell you what a field is. It doesn't tell you why it is. I'm interested in understanding. Yet these people who claim to be physicists, and I'm not exaggerating, they don't care. Where's your peer review? Well, this has been taught for ages. You know, there's virtual photons that are emitted. They actually teach that, by the way. I've told you this before. If you don't believe me, look it up. They think what's happening in a magnet, not that this is a magnet, is an emission of virtual photons. Like when you have two magnets and they start to accelerate towards one another. Well, they're doing it, and this is what they actually say. Look it up. They're exchanging virtual photons. You know, that is fundamentally, empirically no different than saying invisible leprechauns or unicorns are flying between two magnets and communicating with one another. Move closer together. That's just insanity. But that's what these people teach. Those are not the inputs or outputs of any experiment ever performed on this earth. There's no such thing as a virtual photon. It is purely a conceptual brain fart, drummed up by academia and these people. I have a PhD. This is established dogma. Which sounds exactly like what it is. It's a belief system. It's not reality. It's not rational. This is what Nikola Tesla meant. Anyway, I hope you like this video. If you want to contact me or any donation, you could always check my email below or tell me how much you don't like it. I read every comment, so thanks for watching. Goodbye.